Good morning, everybody. I think most of mine are kind of little stories from interactions within the museum, but leading on from everybody else, especially Russell mentioning the scrub hubs and things. As in the lockdown, I did find myself quite busy, unusually, and it was actually a really personal sort of proud moment to see that the scrub hubs being represented in the contact list with my mum and loads of people I knew being involved with creating the scrubs. And then, as Russell mentioned, speaking to a lady about the masks, and that was the big call out across the area for people to take on making sort of 25 masks minimum. That ended up taking me about 48 hours just to make that little amount. But I think it ended up by being well into the thousands that we all sort of contributed. So yeah, it's little touches like that, bumping into several people at the museum that I'd kind of seen on our Zoom chats with that group, and then being able to see themselves sort of represented in the gallery was, it's been, personally pretty proud, and kind of proud of the sort of Dundee local effort as well there, and links to DJ CAD as well. It's been brilliant. And then pretty much as soon as we came back into the museum, there was plenty of sort of tales that we were hearing and things, and I mean, even just, I've heard the best feedback, even just about the soundscape happening in the museum. Irvin from Jack and Irvin fame of in Dundee, saying that he'd been for a meal in the restaurant, and it was such a lovely experience to feel like you were part of the bigger museum rather than being sectioned away in a restaurant. And that, as someone who's been to a lot of the events that we've had and and the tail-eats and things, and just saying that even just the simple thing of just changing the ambience through the soundtrack has made it just such a lovely experience being back in the building. Very quaint. There was an amazing lady up, I think it was the very first day we opened, lady up dressed head to toe in quaint up from the Wirral, and she'd made this huge trip planned, gone around all of Scotland, was wearing her mum's 60s jersey quaint dress, and looked quite the part, and turned up, but unfortunately didn't have a quant ticket. Didn't actually realise she hadn't got her quant ticket. So yeah, of course we managed to sort that for her. She was incredibly complimentary about Jack and all these efforts. And I think that was the first time in the first few hours of being back open that I realised that we were able to do that sort of magical stuff that we can kind of do for people. And I know it sounds a little bit cheesy saying that, but I know how I would feel if I was in a different place in the world after going through all this, taking the brave sort of steps to maybe head out just to bite the bullet and go for it. And the fact that we're still able to do these little things for people that make it just that little bit easier, that bit more special, just, as the person being able to do that, it does really make the job. It really makes the experience. A lot of feedback had been that a lot of people didn't expect the small extras, which is just simply when Darren, security guard, helping somebody through with a wheelchair. I think a lot of people felt like it would be far more self-service or a little bit more anxious to ask the staff for something or ask something more than what we were all kind of dealing with already. And everybody's just kind of been quite, kind of taken aback at the fact that we are able to help somebody who feels a little bit faint in quant with a little bit, with a bit more care and attention than maybe we're feeling in the general populace. And it's just brilliant to feel that people are saying that they're really comfortable, or that they were nervous and unsure and hesitant, and now they're comfortable and assured, and a lot of people really excited to come back and return. I've had some, I think, quite emotive sort of experiences where one of the very first times as well, upstairs just outside SDG, I met an elderly gentleman who, he was sort of standing in the middle of a contact list, just sort of looking a little bit confused, and he had a visor on, so I could see his full face, which was a bit unusual as well. And he was actually, as I approached and asked how he was doing, just a morning, a gentle hello sort of thing, he started tearing up, and he started getting quite emotional, but in a very controlled way, and just started just speaking and just saying that he sort of said it's just like it hasn't happened. And I sort of asked him what you know, how did he feel? And he said, you know, he just started speaking and saying, but we're still in it. And, but this is really important, and sort of gesturing to contact lists. And I kind of felt for him, because I felt a little bit triggered by a couple of things there, because it brought me a memory back of something that I had dealt with within lockdown, be it like a Zoom funeral or things like this. And, you know, speaking to other VAs, you know, it's really apparent to see how different demographics, different people have had these different experiences. But the key thing is the gent was still really happy to be there, but he kept saying, this is really good though. It's really, really good. And he couldn't explain it. I couldn't help him, with, you know, get further, but it was really important to him. And, you know, and I just think that kind of emotional response has been amazing. And lastly, it was a couple from Bradford up, and it actually came out of me offering there to be a toilet cubicle, which happened to be a disabled toilet available. I felt, because the gent had a stick, he kind of thought I was suggesting that. It turned out that he came out and apologised for being rude, because he was just a bit sensitive about his stick. Turns out that he'd been planning a trip to Dundee since for about 5 years, but unfortunately had suffered a stroke and had been paralysed, and had made amazing recovery, and had used sort of his first coach trip to come up to Dundee, because it turns out that he was actually an apprentice working for Associated Weavers, which is like a really quite famous carpet brand in Britain for years. And he was an apprentice to the jute buyers from Bradford and all around Halifax and stuff. And he used to bring his then now wife up for a wee visit and come up for when they were courting and things. And this was the first time that they'd actually been. So it was a milestone for him because of his recovery, but a wee milestone for him in his lockdown. And he just said it was super special to be back in. And he just loved the fact that he didn't go to Verdant because he didn't want to know only about jute, but he was loved the fact he got a bit of jute and a lot of the V&A as well. So yeah, it's just encouraging. And I think for all, it's just good to be back.